Good evening, everyone. I invite you to turn on your cameras and say hello to each other. A few who are here so far. Hello, hello. Please feel free to unmute.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Mission Dharma.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Everyone.
Hello.
Hi from Victoria.
Ooh.
Hello to Victoria. Mary, otherwise known as Mission Dharma, thank you for co-hosting.
Welcome.
Linda up in my corner. Madison and her usual presence. Frank and Rhonda, glad to see all of you. Nicole. Bill.
Linda.
Hi, from
Hello.
Diego.
Hello there.
Anyway, some of our usual meet and greet that we would be able to do in person, a little bit more challenging online. Makes me, I feel sad when I say that we don't have that tactile experience, but we do have this. We are together, and it's always a good reminder of the precious Dharma. When I say Dharma, and I'll refer to this again later, I just mean the way it is. The way it is. It doesn't have to be reduced to Buddhism or Christianity or any label. It's just the way it is. And really the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, the context in which we come together, is really only aimed at helping us create the conditions to see the way it is. And then to learn to be with our life with more harmony, more joy, less reactivity. And we don't need to call it by any label other than learning how to get along and be happy. Dalai Lama says that the purpose of our life is to be happy, the purpose of everyone's life. And that's what joins us all. So whatever club you are a member of is not as important as creating those inner conditions of well-being and happiness, which the Buddha does a wonderful job of reminding you that those conditions for awakening, for joy, for happiness are nearer than your breath. They're available to each of us if we just turn our attention a little bit more closely to the way things are and to who and what we are on present evidence. So to be able to experience our life on present evidence, it's necessary that we brush the dust of memory a little bit. So we clear the mirrors of our minds so that we can experience ourselves freshly with clear eyes and an open heart. So that's all we'll be doing tonight, is clearing our eyes, opening our heart. And to do that, we need our senses open. So we need to be in touch with our body and its senses. This is the way the whole world is experienced through the senses. So even if you've been a stranger to your body for this lifetime, you've lived in your mind or your thoughts, this is an opportunity to put your mind in your body and your body in your mind. And a wonderful way to do that and to move beyond the idea of the body to the felt sense is to let your eyes close softly. Closing off the eye, the visual door, opens up that feeling door. And you feel the shape and the form of your sitting body. Of course, some of you may be lying down, but in general, energy flows a little bit more energetically or smoothly with an upright, relaxed posture. So sense the field of sensations that we call sitting. We feel the form and the shape of the sitting body. We feel its aliveness, and feel the way that its elements of earth and air and fire and water are animated by life that lives, that same life that lives inside of you, lives inside of me. We are joined in this, plugged into the same inexhaustible current. Very non-personal, animating force in each of us called life, called breath, called spirit. So noticing how the sitting body brought into our attention, into our awareness, how it naturally stills and settles, maybe with a little bit of a bumpy landing, a little bit of anxiety or agitation that comes from having been disembodied. Slowly we let ourselves touch our body with our mind. Bringing the two together brings a kind of harmony, brings a gentle, relaxed stillness. When we feel the stilling and we can notice how the stilling of the body, it's unforced, just naturally brings a little steadying of our attention, slow stilling of our thoughts. So much so that the felt sense of our body gets even more obvious. So obvious that the idea of our body melts away and there's just sensation. Just stillness. And with that backdrop of stillness, stillness of mind, stillness of body, we feel the subtle movements, the effortless movements that our body makes when it breathes. We just join our attention with those movements of the breath, intimately feeling the body's in-breath or rising or expanding feeling, the body's out-breath, and its falling, contracting feeling. Without directing this breath at all, we just enjoy the way the body moves when it breathes. Movement and stillness. Noticing how the breath fills the body and then empties into stillness, into openness. Fills, expands, and then empties. Breath by breath, we come to a calm abiding in this living present. We just notice how our body is breathing. Notice when the breath is short, when it's long, when it's rough, when it's smooth, deep or shallow. And then we notice when sounds call our attention. We notice when other sensations light up in our mind. We notice when they're pleasant. We notice when they're unpleasant. We even notice when they're neither pleasant or unpleasant. We notice moods when they get triggered, often by thoughts, and we notice the thoughts. Just the way it is, the flow of consciousness, moment by moment. And we support the refinement of our attention with anchoring it in our body and our breath. The more refined our attention to the breathing body, the more easily we can notice the array of experience beyond the breath. All sense experience welcome. Just this moment of breath, or whatever becomes predominant. We just want to know how it is, not why, not what will happen, but how it is right now. And then see what happens. Being available to the next arising experience. Soft mind, but alert. Gentle, yet precise. Clarity of perception. Just this moment. No matter how many times you realize you've been lost in a dream, a thought, fantasy, memory, appreciate that moment of noticing, that moment of re-arising awareness, coming out of the clouds. Feel the clarity of the mind free for a few moments of its preoccupation. And then in support of remaining anchored to the reality, the living present, we connect again with our body and breath. Planting the seed of wakefulness rather than the seed of judgment. So no need to judge the wandering mind. Just keep cultivating awareness. Embodiment. Just a sense of presence. Just this moment. I hope you're not jumping ahead too quickly and that you're just letting yourself marinate in the fragrance of your practice. Let yourself steep in the sense of immediacy. Until the tea bag is pulled out, we just relax. As you've probably been able to gather over the years, it's the evening discourse before I sit down is pretty much unformed. And part of the fun of seeing the way our mind works and the way the Dharma is the way it is. I started with tonight, just getting in touch with the way it is. One of the fun elements of seeing the way it is that somehow the conditions of being, functioning in this role, you being with me, knowing that there will be a space that is usually filled with a talk starts forming, or at least stray thoughts start coming. And that's why I often call the discourse stray thoughts, because they tend to just arise. And somehow I know that there's an intention of taking into consideration what I've been experiencing in my life, what you're likely experiencing, some of the things that we have in common. I'm just, for example, today, because I read a lot, I'm in contact with a lot of people, I've heard a lot about the different views, and it's quite interesting, the different views about vaccinations. And I just read this article recently. It was called Marin in Missouri, and talked about Marin County having 90% of the people in Marin County had been vaccinated, 12 and over had at least one shot. And that the consideration was that the virus is basically non-existent in Marin County. There are something like 3 in a day or something. And then they talked about Missouri, which has 34% people vaccinated, and that Delta virus is just proliferating like mad. It's like different worlds. But I heard the most interesting thing today that I hadn't really considered is that the part of the one view of those who have not gotten vaccinated is they feel, at least some people, everybody has considered views about this, but some people feel unsafe around people who are vaccinated because they may be contracting the virus, and sloughing it off or whatever it is. I forgot what it means to, when it dies off. The die off is slow. And so if you're around someone who's without a mask and they're getting exposed to the virus, you may be at risk if you're around somebody who's vaccinated and you're not. So just the madness of different views, the madness of our world. All of us who are living and interested in life and what's going on, interested in the suffering that we experience, the suffering that other people experience, all of that forms an interest in wanting to share something that at least I found useful and that you might as well. But where my mind goes is mysterious. And tonight, a chain of thoughts started arising about identity. And I almost wanted to ask this community, what are you most identified with? Where do you fall into identity view? Where do you coagulate through a kind of innocent set of circumstances? Is it around your gender? Is it around your race? Is it around your ethnicity? Is it around your orientation? Is it around your religion? Just the enormity of different identities and how much suffering there is around identity. And whatever it is that where your identity coagulates through circumstances, in some ways, up to this point, out of your control, wherever it is that your identity coagulates is going to be a source of stress. And since we all have identity, we all fall into identity formation, that means we all have ignorance, at least in the Buddhist context of ignorance. We all take the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates of existence: contact, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. 5 things that make up our experience moment to moment. If we really look closely at reality, we all take that heap of aggregates and we mistakenly view it as self. And then that self starts building based on circumstances, based on culture, based on education, based on so many things. Pretty soon we are this one mistaken perception hardens into very stratified views. And then we have a world of others, self and others. And there's so much suffering, self-view. And then I started thinking about the Buddha. Now, we're all here tonight because we love Buddha Dharma, but I often like to remind people I sit with, and I remind myself, that the Buddha was not a Buddhist. The Buddha just means awake. The Buddha, in some ways, awakened and touched that non-personal element within the nature of his mind, touched that in him, that was non-conceptual, non-historical, non-identity. And that realization that identity is really a partial truth of reality. As important as it is for us to be sensitive to the suffering that each of us has had or has caused because of our sensitivities and because of identity. But now I forgot what I was saying. That's a whole talk in itself. But the Buddha touched something that is in all of us, that is absolutely untouched by identity, that has no limits at all, that is free. And that freedom that he spent the next 45 years and now others the last 2,600 years, that freedom is what was pointed to over and over and over. to realize, don't get caught in, don't get caught in any view of yourself. Make it a goal. So the only way to stop doing that is to know where it is that you identify. Is it with your, what is it? I almost want people to feel free, if you want, just one word, 2 word. What are you most identified with? You can put it in the chat and maybe I'll get to it later, but I'll just let my mind keep going right now. But the Buddha and you in this very moment can just step out of that house of ego, house of identity. And this is not a denial of all your identities. This is what will make you able to deal with microaggressions, deal with the ignorance, deal with the hatred, deal with so much that makes our life so maddening. As if you also know that in you which is untouched by it. And know that as the very nature of the mind that knows. The nature of the mind that knows. That consciousness within us. And that consciousness within us, it's not even within us. In fact, our mind and body is within consciousness, you could say. So that leads to the next stray thought that came, was this wild experience I had. I think it's 1978. And I realized in the last several weeks of the Tuesday group, I've been taking a little walk down memory lane. I was just heartbroken, very identified with having had my heart broken by a girlfriend. And I was driving across country. And in my car, I had a picture of Neem Karoli Baba. I don't know how many of you know who Neem Karoli Baba. Neem Karoli Baba is the guru of, the Hindu guru of Ram Dass, who there was many, many stories about him, but he was a great cause, a great influencer of Ram Dass, who then became a real world teacher for many. But I had a picture of Neem Karoli Baba on my dashboard. And in my cassette player, early cassettes, I had the music. I had just attended a Ram Dass retreat. I think that summer. It was called a mature ashram. And at the ashram, at the mature ashram, there was a fellow who played music every day at this retreat. And his name was Jai Utal, or his name was Jai Gopal at the time, but it's Jai Utal. And he had put the words of Neem Karoli Baba to music. And I plugged in the cassette tape with this music on it, and into the little Volkswagen that I was driving came the words, and I sing them often at retreats because it's been so meaningful to me. He sang, and I'll sing it for you. I'll take the risk. I am like the wind. No one can hold me. I belong to everyone. No one can own me. The whole world is my home. All are my family. I live in every heart. I will never leave thee. Oh, crystal tears Oh, taking away my fears. And magically, the moment I said, I am like the wind, all my ideas of myself just kind of melted away. My identity with being so heartbroken, so hurt, bereft, hopeless, all those waves of feeling that were coming, they all melted away into this great sky-like openness. And I had a sense, even at that moment, at those moments, that I was touching something that was more me than me, more me than my personality, more me than all of my identities. And it was a source, and it has been a source of joy, even in the midst of hurt and madness and difficulties. That nearer than near is this nature that the Buddha awakened to. So when early in the evening, I said something about, it doesn't matter whether you're a Buddhist or a Christian or a Muslim or whatever your identity, whether you're a Mahayana, that's another huge identity, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Hinayana. Remember that even within Buddha Dharma, that's all about freedom, all about moving beyond our limitations. There's all of this these sectarian views. The Mahayana, the greater vehicle. The Theravada is actually it's called by the Mahayana, the Hinayana, which means lesser vehicle. That's the southern Buddhists, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos. Did I say Sri Lanka? Lesser, greater. It's crazy talk. It always makes me think of this poem that says, greater vehicle, lesser vehicle, all vehicles will be towed away at owner's expense. It's crazy. The Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. He wasn't a Theravada. He wasn't a Mahayana. He wasn't a Vajrayana. He's awake. Buddha means awake. And awake to that clarity of perception that sees things as they are. It's so obvious when we open our eyes that an idea of ourselves, any label that we have about ourselves, is not ourself. It's a historical version. It's an approximation. It's a concept. So in the midst of all of the madness, how far do we have to travel to find a source of inexhaustible freedom and openness? Is it really dependent on getting the world to be different? Is it really dependent on making sure everybody is treated well? Is it really conditional? Of course, we're going to try. The heart that is open, the mind that's open, wants everyone to be happy, wants everyone to feel safe from harm, from inner and outer harm. Of course, we want that. But we can't hold our joy, our life, our freedom hostage to how things turn out, to whether our mind is quiet or it's busy, or our heart is open or closed, or whether the world, whether there's enough whether there's justice. We do everything we can, but we don't forget freedom is available. You know, the world was in no better shape when the Buddha was alive. He could have spent his whole life just only engaging in social justice. His work was social justice work. You know, I've talked about this a lot on Tuesdays, that one of his very radical act of social justice was to make the Sangha so homogenous, you know, not to have everyone wear the same robes, and just to break down the hierarchy of the caste system for anybody who entered the Sangha. That's very cool. And so it's important that it is named and it is appreciated. But that wasn't the central focus of the teachings for the next 4,500 years. It was doing everything you can to see how life is, and then to be in harmony with it in such a way to be, when I say in harmony, it doesn't mean you just blasé about it, but to see it so clearly, to be so attuned to the way things are, that your mind stops being so reactive, stops hating on yourself and hating on others, stops clinging to things that inevitably change, like this body, like this mind, like this world, like our bank account, like our health. It's always changing. To be in harmony with that, to be in harmony with it to such an extent, to be so non-reactive that your mind settles into a natural balance and equanimity that allows an intuition of this great awakening that you are. And I shouldn't even say great, just the unconditional wakefulness that lives in you. It's the Buddha. Kalu Rinpoche says, you are the Buddha. Why don't you see it? He says, because there's a veil, such as the belief that you're not the Buddha, that you're a separate individual in all your identities. He says, if you can just see through that, one glimpse of your mind, not defined by past or future, just come face to face with this sky-like nature. If you can sense that even for a moment, this uncaused, unconditional mindfulness, you could say. If you can have one glimpse, then you can refer to it all the time. That ever, as Kalu Rinpoche puts it, to the ever-present wakefulness and clarity. So that you can, in your own way, and I think these songs really help. They point us, they're reminders. I am like the wind. No one can hold me. What that nature is, that is no nature, it can't be put in a box. Your own mind is free. And you only need to consult the past. You know, that said that I read a new study about depression this last week. I don't know how many of you did. It was, I think, in all the aggregated news services, that depression is gets its momentum from excessive dwelling on the past. As my teacher Punjaji said, you need the past and thoughts to suffer. You don't need anything to be free. It says the boulders of the past rest on your chest and impede your life and freedom. He says, find the origin of those thoughts. You'll see that they come out of nothing, out of openness, and they're gone. Where are all those thoughts now? There's just barking dogs. My dog loves to let the neighbors know that she's in charge. This is COVID Dharma here. Dogs call us here and now. The next thought that I had, because I had stumbled on the reading and it was actually on the desk today. When I thought about the being like the wind, this kind of limitlessness, invisibility, just everything included within the nature of the mind, I thought of how important it is in this time of madness, I guess, which is every time, because humans are really flawed. We create so much suffering for ourselves and each other. But it's essential that we have a very wide view of reality, as we're so prone to get bound up in our identities, in our grievances. You know, this is the grievance age, where the things proliferate so fast because they can just, you can tweet something and, you know, people's lives are destroyed so instantaneously because we're so mad about everything. What should and shouldn't be done and shouldn't be said. That we have to keep some perspective. So this constant balancing between the wide view and then the great care for the effects of our actions. Think of Padmasambhava, who says, my mind is as vast, empty as the sky, but my care for the effects of karma or action is as refined as barley flour. I think we actually may get a little bit excessively bound up in what's right and wrong. And it is a balance of perspective. The quote that I found on my desk today, which I guess didn't get buried from the last time that I read it, was the quote from Carl Sagan. It just seemed like a nice night, as long as we're stripping away the small view of ourselves. Why not strip away the small view of our world that we tend to fall into? And this was his little story, or it's a lecture that he gave in 1994 at Cornell University. He presented an image of the planet Earth in the vast skyscape, and it was taken by the Voyager 1 probe from a record distance of about 6 billion kilometers, or 3.7 billion miles. And in the photograph, Earth's size is less than a pixel. The planet appears as a tiny dot against the vastness of space, among bands of sunlight reflected by the camera. So Carl Sagan, we succeeded in taking that picture from deep space. And if you look at it, you see a dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you have ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives. the aggregate of all our joys and sufferings, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species live there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and in triumph, they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of the dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of the dot on scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner of the dot. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. It's up to us. It's been said that astronomy is a humbling, and I might add, character building experience. To my mind, there is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly and compassionately with one another and to preserve and cherish that pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. But somehow, to see ourselves from that vastness, it loosens the intensity of our grasping and our condemning, our reactivity. And actually deprives us of the joy of being part of this magical existence, this emergence on this pale blue planet. As I've been mentioning recently, I get a lot of Dharma transmission from my partner in this life, Annie. And her most recent transmission was, and it's so simple, but I leave you with it today. It's just the practice that she's doing. Said the two most important things she's doing right now to deal with the challenge of staying balanced in this world of madness is to focus on two things: regulating her nervous system, our nervous system. I'll just put it out. Now I'm doing it as well. Regulating my nervous system, which means doing whatever it takes to calm the system, calm the mind, calm the body, to be a little less wired. Wired, I'm editorializing, she didn't say any of this, but wired equals reactivity. And reactivity equals suffering, mental suffering. So whatever it is that helps put the mind in the body in the mind, harmonizing, calming the nervous system, that's number one. The second is to practice, relentlessly practice kindness. I can't tell you how many people have either witnessed or heard of people just flying off at other people, just rage attacks, and relationships being threatened by little, what in that cosmic view, little issues turning into dramatic, meaningful issues that where there's a loss of perspective. So of course, perspective is a cause. Wideness is a cause of equanimity. Wisdom is a cause of equanimity, but kindness is a cause of equanimity too. Equanimity is the fruit of loving kindness. It's the culmination of loving kindness, a boundless heart that can stay open even to people who you disagree with. But it takes intention because our mind is so conditioned to be reactive, to be opinionated. And you hear it every day and you read it every day, the silos of views and the polarization. We can't do much about that. Remember, I'm trying to remember that the world is the way it is because we are the way we are. And as long as we are the way we are, reactive, then the world keeps staying that way. If we want a non-reactive world, we have to be non-reactive. We can't wait till the polarization ends, where people come out of their silos. We have to come out of our own. And one doorway is the doorway to equanimity. The door is kindness. So calming our nervous system, being kind, remembering that the vastness of space, the vastness of our mind, the vastness of our heart. Remember the words of Leonard Cohen, who said, if you don't become the ocean, you will be seasick every day. So let's sing, let's chant together. I know I can't unmute you. It would be chaotic, so I'll just chant again and you can join me. I'll do it a few times and you can catch on. I am like the wind, no one can hold me. I belong to everyone, no one can own me. The whole world is my home, all are my family. I live in every heart, I will never leave thee, oh, crystal tears. Oh, taking away my fears. Once more. I am like the wind, no one can own me. No one can hold me. I belong to everyone, no one can own me. The whole world is my home, all are my family. I live in every heart, I will never leave thee, oh, crystal tears. Oh, taking away my fears. So we may, for the benefit of all beings, may we all step out of the madness into our own joy, Buddha nature, wakefulness. May our actions of body, speech, and mind be the cause of well-being for ourselves and each other. May we be calm. May we be kind. And may our practice today and every day be dedicated to the welfare and benefit of all. May all beings be liberated. May all beings transcend labels and forms. But feel free to use the labels and forms out of compassion for those who have been labeled. May all beings be liberated.